It was from this vantage point that Frances witnessed the unexpected exodus of the small Jewish community from the slough land between the rivers. She counted 32 figures, some leading horses, some leading cows, some leading children, some children leading others. Even the road had reverted to the gummy black loam of the bordering fields, and the group was making slow progress. 3 teams of oxen strained to pull as many wagons, laden with furniture, bedding, pots and pans, crates of chickens, and a few more children. Leading the first team of oxen was Jack Shaw, whom Frances had assumed to be at work across the yard in the machine shed. She went down to meet the procession as it slogged into the yard. Standing at the end of the raised board sidewalk, Frances listened as Jack Shaw spoke, although very little needed to be said to make the situation clear. Their homes and barns were awash with muddy water. Their root cellars had flooded, ruining not only the remaining provisions but the seed potatoes and bushels of wheat set aside for spring planting. And now 3 of the children had taken sick. Shaw finished his report by pointing to the forlorn bundles huddled atop the wagon. Looking past Shaw and the wagon, Frances watched as the field cook, little Carl, emerged from the cookhouse. The door of the supervisor's house opened. Mr. Johnson was a hard worker and a dependable supervisor, but he had stated his opinion regarding the presence on the farm of that Jew, Jack Shaw, often enough for Frances to prefer that he not become part of the conversation. To little Carl, as he approached, Frances called, "How many men are staying in the bunkhouse now?" Before he could answer, Jack Shaw said, "Better they should stay in the granary." "All right. Carl, can you have supper ready for—" Frances began to count and then asked Jack Shaw, "How many of you are there?" Despite little Carl's nod in the affirmative, Jack Shaw said, "Better they should cook their own food too, Mrs. Bingham." He hesitated before adding, "In their own pots and pans. Only you should spare for us potatoes and onions. Mr. Bingham can take it from out my wages." "Carl will get you what you need." "Mr. Johnson," Frances turned toward the supervisor who had reached her side, "these people will be staying in the granary this evening and perhaps for a few days beyond. They will need help seeing to their stock." "Thank you," she said before the supervisor could reply. When Johnson turned away with a scowl, Jack Shaw gave Frances a wan smile and said quietly, "The wolf is not afraid of the dog, but he hates his bark."